Well, hi everyone, this is Dr. Jamnadas, and today I want to tackle something most people get completely wrong about fasting: how to break it. Everyone obsesses over the length of a fast, 16 hours, 18 hours, even a full 24, but almost nobody talks about the meal that follows, the very moment that decides whether your fasting efforts will pay off or backfire. I can say from years of working with patients that the first thing you eat after a fast often makes all the difference between progress and frustration. Before we dive into the science, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and if you think this video could help a friend or family member, share it immediately after watching. Here's the truth. Fasting works because it lowers insulin, and when insulin is low, your body flips from storing energy to burning it. Visceral fat, liver fat, even fat within your muscles begins to release and fuel your body. That's the therapeutic magic of fasting. But the moment you eat, insulin rises. This is normal, but the speed, size, and duration of that rise are what matters. Break your fast with sugar, juice, bread, rice, or any refined food. And insulin doesn't just rise, it spikes dramatically. When that happens, fat burning shuts off immediately, hunger hormones surge, cravings hit, energy crashes, and sometimes even reactive hypoglycemia appears. Many people then say, fasting made me shaky or caused me to overeat. No, it wasn't the fast. It was how they broke it. Think of fasting as pulling back a bowstring, storing metabolic potential. The first meal releases that energy. Release it gently and you stay in control. Release it violently and everything snaps back. After fasting, your body is highly insulin sensitive, a good thing, but also a time when you're vulnerable to the wrong foods. Insulin sensitivity is a double-edged sword. Feed it the wrong signal and insulin surges far beyond normal. Feed it the right signal and insulin rises moderately, stays stable, and fat burning quietly continues. The goal of your first meal isn't to refuel as quickly as possible. It's to prolong the metabolic benefits while safely reintroducing nutrients. You want insulin to rise slowly and predictably, hunger hormones like ghrelin to calm rather than spike, and leptin signaling to keep you satisfied without overeating. That's why I always say, the first post-fast meal isn't about calories, it's about hormones, insulin, glucagon, cortisol, GLP-1, and the gut-brain connection. Feed yourself incorrectly, and you feel bloated, hungry, exhausted, and frustrated. Feed yourself correctly, and you'll feel calm, clear-headed, and surprisingly satisfied. That difference isn't willpower, it's physiology. By the end of a fast, whether 14, 18, or 24 hours, your liver glycogen is mostly gone, insulin is low, glucagon is high, fat is being released, and ketones may supply a major portion of your energy. Your metabolism is calm, efficient, and hunger hormones like ghrelin have peaked and begun to fall. Cortisol, which rises initially during fasting, has normalized if the fast is managed well. This is why many report steady energy and mental clarity near the end of a fast. Now comes the critical point. The first thing you eat either preserves this balance or completely disrupts it. The primary disruptor is glucose. Any food that converts rapidly to glucose, sugar, starch, refined grains triggers an insulin spike that immediately shuts down fat burning. Ketone production drops, the metabolic switch flips back to storage mode, and blood sugar can even drop too quickly, causing shakiness, sudden hunger, and the urge to overeat. That's why oatmeal, smoothies, fruit, or toast after fasting often leave people feeling worse than they did while fasting. They didn't need more calories, they triggered a hormonal crash. The safest approach is to choose foods that minimally stimulate insulin. Fats have the smallest response, protein a moderate one, and carbohydrates, especially refined ones, the highest. This doesn't make carbs the enemy, it just means timing is critical. Post-fast, carbs should wait until insulin sensitivity stabilizes and satiety signals are in place. Another important player is GLP-1, a gut hormone that promotes satiety, slows digestion, and supports insulin regulation. Protein and fat stimulate GLP-1, sugar and refined carbs do not. This is why eggs or yogurt make you feel satisfied, while cereal or juice leave you hungry soon after. Your gut also needs gentleness after fasting. Digestive enzymes are down-regulated, and suddenly eating heavy, oily, or sugary foods overwhelms the system, causing bloating, reflux, or diarrhea. That discomfort isn't detox, it's poor refeeding. Breaking a fast should be deliberate, calm, and simple, teaching your metabolism exactly what to do next. If you're still watching this, comment below, yes, I want to see who's paying attention. Next, I'll show you how to transition properly from fasting to feeding so fat burning continues rather than stops abruptly. The most effective way to break a fast isn't with a large meal, it's with a smooth transition. You're moving from a fasted, hormonally optimized state into a fed state. And that shift needs to be gentle. Rush it, and insulin overshoots, fat burning stops, and hunger hormones spike. Respect it, and your metabolism continues quietly. Energy stays steady, and satiety remains intact. After longer fasts, I often recommend starting with something liquid-based. Warm fluids signal safety to your nervous system and gently wake up digestion without spiking blood sugar. Bone broth, diluted yogurt whey, or even warm water with a pinch of salt can prepare your gut before solid food enters. Once digestion is activated, the next priority is fat. Healthy fats barely stimulate insulin, support ketone production, and allow fat burning to taper off gradually rather than stopping abruptly. Fats also slow gastric emptying, preventing a sudden glucose surge later. Protein comes next, but timing is crucial. Protein does stimulate insulin, yet it also stimulates glucagon and GLP-1, which blunt blood sugar spikes and create lasting satiety. When protein follows fats, not the other way around, the metabolic response is far more stable. That's why breaking a fast with eggs, plain yogurt, kefir, or lightly cooked non-starchy vegetables paired with fat works so well people feel calm, full, and energized for hours. Hunger doesn't rebound, energy remains steady, and mental clarity persists. This isn't discipline, it's hormonal alignment. What you want to avoid is anything that acts like a sugar bomb. Fruit juice, honey, dates, bread, rice, potatoes, cereal, oatmeal, pastries, these all convert rapidly to glucose. After fasting, that glucose hits the bloodstream fast, insulin surges, and fat burning stops instantly. Even foods considered healthy, like smoothies or acai bowls, are metabolically aggressive after fasting because liquids digest faster than solids, and blending removes the natural barrier of chewing and fiber, which slows sugar absorption. Oily, heavy foods are another trap. Deep-fried items or large amounts of refined oils overwhelm bile flow, slow digestion, and trigger bloating, nausea, or fatigue. Fat itself is helpful, but it must come from stable, moderate sources. Probiotics also play a key role. Fasting alters gut bacteria activity, and introducing fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, or kimchi gently restores gut signaling, improves insulin sensitivity in the intestines, reduces post-meal inflammation, and enhances nutrient absorption. Think of the first meal after fasting as a hormonal instruction manual. You're teaching your body whether to stay in repair mode or rush back into storage mode. The wrong message shuts everything down, The right one preserves the benefits. Carbohydrates are another key consideration. They're not the enemy, but timing is everything. After a fast, your body is insulin sensitive yet vulnerable. Adding carbs too early from bread, rice, fruit, or starch can trigger an exaggerated insulin response that reverses hours or even days of metabolic progress. At the end of a fast, the liver is still producing glucose through gluconeogenesis. If you suddenly add external glucose, the liver doesn't immediately stop producing it, creating an overlap that leads to sharp blood sugar spikes. This is why many people feel shaky, tired, anxious, or ravenously hungry after breaking a fast the wrong way. It's not weakness, it's physiology. The solution isn't to avoid carbohydrates forever, it's to delay them. Eating fats and proteins first suppresses excess glucose release and slows absorption. After a few hours, insulin stabilizes, and carbohydrates are processed smoothly as fuel rather than a shock. This is why I advise against oatmeal, cereal, toast, or fruit immediately after fasting, even if these foods are fine later in the day. Timing changes biology, and sequence matters more than the food itself. Another hormone to understand here is ghrelin, the hunger hormone. It rises during fasting but drops steadily when fats and proteins are consumed first. Carbohydrates temporarily suppress ghrelin but trigger a higher rebound later, which drives cravings and overeating. Leptin, the satiety hormone, is also affected. Insulin spikes from a carb-first meal interfere with leptin signaling, especially in people with insulin resistance. That's why some can eat a large carb-heavy meal and still feel unsatisfied. The gut-brain connection matters too. After fasting, the gut lining is more sensitive, and simple sugars or refined starches feed opportunistic bacteria, causing gas, bloating, and inflammation. Fermented foods and fiber-rich vegetables, on the other hand, support beneficial bacteria, reinforce gut integrity, and improve metabolic signaling. A practical rule: break the fast gently, wait 2 to 3 hours before adding carbohydrates, and when you do, keep portions modest and fiber-rich. Whole vegetables differ dramatically from flour-based foods, lentils behave differently from bread, and context is everything. For weight loss or reversing insulin resistance, delaying carbohydrates until the last meal of the day is often optimal. Later activity helps safely dispose of glucose, and insulin sensitivity is higher in the evening for many. This approach doesn't require perfection, just sequence: fats first, protein next, carbohydrates last, if at all. That preserves fat burning, stabilizes hormones, and prevents the metabolic whiplash that makes people feel fasting didn't work. Now, let's talk about how different fast lengths change the way you should break your fast, and why longer fasts demand even more care. A 14 to 16-hour fast is very different from a 24-hour fast, and multi-day fasts are an entirely distinct physiological state. The biggest mistake I see is treating every fast the same way. After a longer fast, insulin levels are extremely low, glycogen stores are depleted, and your body is running primarily on fat and ketones. This is a fragile but powerful metabolic state. If you suddenly introduce sugar or starch, insulin doesn't just rise, it overshoots, fat burning stops instantly, and you may experience nausea, bloating, diarrhea, dizziness, or profound fatigue. This isn't because fasting is unsafe, it's because refeeding was handled carelessly. After a 24-hour fast, the first intake should be liquid or semi-liquid. Bone broth is ideal, providing sodium, potassium, amino acids, and collagen without spiking insulin. It wakes up digestion gently and prepares the gut for solid foods. Fermented liquids like diluted kefir or small amounts of unsweetened yogurt also work well if tolerated. I usually recommend waiting 30 to 60 minutes after this initial intake before moving to solid foods. That pause allows insulin to rise gradually, gives enzymes time to activate, and prevents gastrointestinal distress. When solid food enters, protein should come before anything else. Eggs, fish, or lightly cooked non-starchy vegetables paired with healthy fats work best. Protein signals safety to the body, stabilizes blood sugar, and reduces stress hormones without demanding a large insulin response. One thing to remember after longer fasts is portion size. Appetite may feel intense, but your digestive capacity is temporarily reduced. Eating slowly and stopping before fullness is essential. Overeating after a long fast is one of the quickest ways to feel unwell. Electrolytes also matter. Fasting increases sodium and magnesium loss. If someone feels weak, lightheaded, or experiences palpitations after breaking a fast, the solution is often just salt a pinch in water can resolve symptoms quickly. Another common mistake is combining fat, protein, and carbohydrates all at once after a long fast, which creates the largest insulin demand and triggers hormonal chaos. Instead, think in phases. First hydration and minerals, then protein and fat, and only hours later or the next day, carbohydrates if necessary. People with insulin resistance, diabetes, or fatty liver must be particularly careful. Their insulin response is exaggerated and liver glucose output is less controlled. For them, carbohydrate-free, fast-breaking meals are often essential for weeks or months before reintroducing starches safely. There's also a psychological aspect. Many view breaking a fast as a reward, which encourages poor food choices. Fasting is not a punishment, and eating is not a prize. They are both tools. When used correctly, they restore normal physiology. If fasting leaves you feeling worse after a meal, it's not the fast that failed, it's the transition back to eating that needs adjustment. Observe your response, note what works, and adjust patiently. Now let's debunk some common myths around breaking a fast. One of the biggest is the idea that you must eat immediately or your metabolism will be damaged. This simply isn't true. Your metabolism doesn't shut down if you wait an extra hour before eating. In fact, staying fasted a little longer can improve insulin sensitivity as long as stress hormones aren't excessive. Another myth is that fruit is a gentle, safe way to break a fast. Physiologically, this doesn't make sense. Fruit is primarily fructose, which bypasses normal insulin pathways and goes straight to the liver. After fasting, the liver is already producing glucose, and adding fructose accelerates fat production in the liver and indirectly spikes insulin. That's why many feel bloated, foggy, or ravenous after breaking a fast with fruit or juice. Juices are even worse because liquids empty from the stomach quickly, delivering sugar almost instantly with no fiber, no slowing mechanism, and no satiety signal. That's not gentle, it's a metabolic ambush. Muscle loss is another common concern. People worry that delaying protein will cause lean tissue to disappear. In reality, fasting increases growth hormone, which protects muscle. Muscle loss occurs from chronic high insulin combined with inactivity, not a short delay in eating. Pairing fasting with resistance exercise and adequate protein preserves muscle remarkably well. Fat is often misunderstood too. Many think fats are too heavy after a fast. In truth, fats have the smallest insulin impact and provide sustained energy when consumed in moderation and from quality sources. Problems arise only when fat is combined with carbohydrates in large quantities. Hunger itself is often misinterpreted as danger. Hunger is largely hormonal, not a reflection of energy depletion. Ghrelin rises and falls in waves. If you break a fast only to silence hunger, you risk poor food choices. Instead, observe hunger. Notice whether it comes with calm energy and mental clarity, and respond accordingly. Even if a fast-breaking meal isn't perfect, the body is resilient. One imperfect meal won't undo weeks of progress. What matters is pattern, not perfection. If you break a fast poorly, return to the rhythm, eat real food, stop snacking, allow insulin to fall, and continue the practice. Fasting works best when it removes fear around food, not creates it. Now, let me give you a practical, step-by-step framework for breaking different types of fasts safely and effectively so you can apply it without confusion or stress. For short daily fasts of 14 to 16 hours, there's no need for anything dramatic. Start with protein and fat. Eggs, fish, unsweetened yogurt, or vegetables cooked in healthy fats all work perfectly. Eat slowly and stop before you feel full. If you want carbohydrates later, reserve them for the last meal of the day, not the first. For slightly longer fasts, around 18 to 20 hours, the process should be a little more deliberate. Begin with hydration and minerals. A simple glass of water with a pinch of salt often suffices. If hunger is present, move to protein and fat first. Avoid starch and sugar for at least 2 to 3 hours. For full 24-hour fasts, always break gently. Start with bone broth or a light fermented food, then wait 30 to 60 minutes before introducing solid foods. Keep that first solid meal simple: protein, healthy fats, and non-starchy vegetables. No desserts, no bread, no fruit. Your body will respond positively, digest efficiently, and continue fat burning quietly. For multi-day fasts, supervision is important. Refeeding syndrome is rare but can happen, and electrolytes are critical. Begin with liquids, small portions, and gradual progression. This isn't the time to experiment. Across all fast lengths, the same principles apply. Avoid sugar, refined starches, fruit, juice, and ultra-processed foods at the first meal. These spike insulin, disrupt hunger hormones, and abruptly halt fat burning. Instead, prioritize foods that stabilize insulin, support your gut, and reinforce metabolic flexibility. Healthy fats signal abundance without chaos. Protein signals repair without overload. Fermented foods support your microbiome. And fiber nourishes beneficial bacteria without raising blood sugar. Fasting creates the window for fat burning, but what you eat determines whether that window stays open or slams shut. The first meal sets the tone for your entire day. If your goal is metabolic health, mental clarity, and longevity, consistency matters more than intensity. You don't need heroic fasts. You need repeatable habits that lower insulin, reduce inflammation, and restore normal physiology. The body doesn't need tricks, it needs fewer insults. Eat less often, choose real food, and break fasts gently. Let hormones do their job. When you respect the transition from fasting to feeding, weight loss becomes easier, hunger becomes quieter, and the body begins to heal itself as it was designed to do. That's the real power of fasting. If you've stayed with me through this entire lecture, go ahead and comment the one key takeaway you got from today. I'd love to hear it. And if you found this content valuable, share it with someone you care about. Finally, let's wrap up by addressing some of the most persistent myths and giving you the ultimate guidance for fasting success. Many people believe you must eat immediately or risk damaging your metabolism. That's simply false. Metabolism doesn't shut down if you wait an extra hour, and insulin sensitivity often improves the longer you remain fasted, provided stress hormones are controlled. Another common misconception is that fruit is a gentle way to break a fast. In reality, fruit is primarily fructose, which bypasses insulin-regulated pathways and goes straight to the liver. After fasting, the liver is already producing glucose, and adding fructose accelerates fat production and indirectly spikes insulin. That's why people often feel bloated, foggy, or ravenous after fruit or juice. Liquids are even worse. They empty the stomach quickly, delivering sugar almost instantly with no fiber, no satiety, and no slow release mechanism. It's not gentle, it's a metabolic ambush. Muscle loss is another concern people exaggerate. Fasting actually increases growth hormone, which protects lean tissue. Muscle is lost only with frequent insulin spikes combined with inactivity and inadequate protein over time, not by waiting an hour or two to eat. Pair fasting with resistance exercise and protein intake later in the day and muscle preservation is remarkable. Fats are another area of confusion. Many think fats are too heavy after a fast. In truth, healthy fats have the smallest insulin response and provide lasting energy. Problems only occur when fat is combined with carbohydrates in large amounts. Hunger itself is often misread as danger. Ghrelin rises and falls naturally. Breaking a fast solely to silence hunger can lead to poor food choices. When hunger comes with calm energy and clarity, fat burning is still active. One more myth is that breaking a fast incorrectly ruins all progress. This isn't true. The body is resilient. One imperfect meal does not undo weeks of work. What matters is the overall pattern, not perfection. A poor, fast-breaking meal should be corrected calmly by returning to routine. Eat real food, avoid snacking, and let insulin stabilize. Fasting works best when it reduces fear around food, not creates it. Understanding the physiology allows decisions to be obvious and calm. You're responding to biology, not guessing. To summarize, here's the safest approach for different fast lengths. Short 14-16 hour fasts, protein and fat first. Eat slowly, save carbs for later. 18-20 hour fasts. Start with hydration and minerals, then protein and fat. Avoid carbs for at least 2-3 hours. 24-hour fasts. Begin with bone broth or light fermented food. Wait 30-60 minutes, then a first solid meal of protein, healthy fat, and non-starchy vegetables. Multi-day fasts require supervision. Liquids first, gradual solid introduction, and careful electrolyte management. Across all fasts, avoid sugar, refined starches, fruit, juice, and ultra-processed foods at the first meal. Sequence is more important than perfection. Hydration and minerals, protein and fat, carbohydrates last, if at all. This preserves fat burning, stabilizes hormones, supports the gut, and ensures metabolic flexibility. The first meal sets the tone for your entire day. Consistency and proper sequence matter more than fasting duration or intensity. Eat real food, respect your hormones, and fasting becomes not just effective, but sustainable. If you've watched this full lecture, I want you to comment below the single most important thing you learned today. Share this knowledge with someone you care about, because understanding how to break a fast correctly can change your results dramatically. This was Dr. Jamnadas, guiding you not just to fast, but to do it in a way that supports metabolism, hormones, and long-term health. Remember, fasting is powerful, but how you refeed is where true transformation happens. Respect your body, follow the sequence, and the benefits will compound effortlessly over time.